All right, welcome to the show. This is No Interference Live with Westside and Big Sass. Thanks for tuning in on this Week 5 Sunday morning. This is a really great week of football because we had the explosive fireworks show that was Broncos Colts in week Thursday night, and then we get an early morning game, Giants Packers, and that's going to be real can't miss football. So good stuff going on now.
Absolutely.
So I guess to start, we are going to give our little breakdown of the Broncos Colts game. Colts get a a field goal late in OT to take the lead, and then the Broncos fail to convert on a 4th and 1. Honestly, a disaster play that cost them the game.
Yeah. The Broncos are a mess. Like, now that it's coming out that he had Russell Wilson apparently has that shoulder or back injury.
Shoulder.
So
It's like shoulder and labrum, I think they said it was.
yeah, which I'm not saying he doesn't have an injury. It's just so convenient that after he struggles so bad that they then release that. It's just kind of weird to me. Like, him and Hackett are on the hot seat. We just had our week 4 review talking about coaches on the hot seat, and I don't think we mentioned Hackett, did we?
No,
It's not really fair for him to be on the hot seat because
I don't think he's going to get fired in the middle of his, like, at the end of the year if they're collapsed. Yeah, but I don't think they're going to fire him halfway through his first year of coaching.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
That's a good way to, like, get, like, a whole team shut down.
Yeah. I did notice a few things they were talking about. Our teammates getting frustrated with Russell Wilson, and there's a few pictures with like Melvin Gordon looking at him when he's sitting there, and he has like a real disgruntled look on his face. And then the last play of the game in overtime where he missed KJ Hamler.
Yep.
Wide open on a slant route, which I give Russell Wilson a little bit of slack for, because if his first read on the left side of the field was Cortland Sutton.
This is why, not to cut you off, but this is why I don't give him a pass. Because I think if you call a rub route in that situation on a 4th and 1, that's the first read.
Was it one side or was it both sides?
I believe it was just to the right.
So you think he just said screw the play? Now that I'm saying that out loud, I feel like I heard something that he went against the play that was called.
Well, they had a rub right to the right, and I don't know who the slot receiver is, but he basically blocked up all the DBs, and KJ Hamler would have got the first down and probably would have scored. But instead, as soon as the ball is hiked, I'm pretty sure Russ looks to his left and is just staring down Cortland Sutton, who is being covered by Gilmore.
Yeah, and he threw the ball late inside arm. So if you look at the view from the camera that's behind the quarterback, some people are arguing that he threw it late to KJ Hamler, but I think he was looking at Cortland Sutton the whole time and tried to slide arm it and stick it in there.
Yeah, I think he was trying to fit it into Sutton for sure.
But yeah, I mean, he was 20. Russell Wilson was 21 of 39. He only had 200. I mean, not only 275 is not bad, but it went into overtime. But he had 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, took 4 sacks. And they were going up a Colts team that's been struggling offensively. They only scored 12 points. So I thought the Broncos were going to be one of the better offenses in the league this year. I know Javonte Williams is out now. But I don't think Melvin Gordon or Boone looked terrible Thursday night. They didn't have like any explosive plays, but Gordon had 54 yards. Boone had 38 yards on only 7 carries. Obviously, nobody scored a touchdown in this game, but it's just a rough look for the Broncos right now, especially Russell Wilson.
I mean, this game to me shows 2 offenses that were supposed to be coming into the year, new quarterbacks. That's going to fix all the problems. Going to be good offenses. The defenses are already solid coming from last year, so everyone expected that. And both quarterbacks have been playing. They've been disappointing. But staying on the Broncos for now, I feel like for the last few years in Seattle, it's always been Pete Carroll's offense was holding back Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
It's always that they weren't letting him do his thing, and you heard a little bit of both sides. But well, look at it now. Pete Carroll's winning with Geno Smith, and Russell Wilson's struggling to win with frankly, a loaded roster right now.
Yeah, it's definitely. We talked about it in the offseason. I think I didn't know a lot of those stories about Russell Wilson. He always seemed like a high character player to me and person in general. I mean, he might be a good person, but he definitely seems now that stories are coming out and some stuff happening with the Broncos, I feel like maybe I'm just paying attention to it more now. He definitely seems like he has that arrogance, not the good arrogance that you want a quarterback to have, but like a full of himself arrogance. And I think you're right. I mean, I think it as of now, Pete Carroll's winning that side of it. Kind of like we had the Belichick, Tom Brady conversation after they split apart. Who was really the key piece behind those Super Bowls? Even though that's a little different because obviously Belichick, defensive guy and whatnot. Sorry, not to get off topic, but yeah, I think Pete Carroll's performing right now. Geno Smith and Geno Smith looks good. I mean,
he's completed almost 80% of his passes.
Yeah, I mean, I gave you grief for picking him. I think you picked the Seahawks or him as your player team of the week in week 1. And I kind of gave you grief about it, but I mean, they've besides one game, I think week 2 they looked not great, but the other 3 weeks they've looked pretty decent and they're 2-2. Broncos have underperformed offensively greatly and they're sitting at 2-3, so
did you see what's his name? Kyle Brandt's little rant about Wilson?
I didn't, but I heard about it.
He kind of, I mean, he always does, or that's his thing. He kind of goes off in like these mini rants, but he was talking about Russell Wilson, and he was saying he was like, listen, Russell Wilson's a nice guy. Like he's like fairly good person. Everyone knows that, but he's like going off saying that his like whole personality, like these last few years, is just like fake, and he called him a poser.
Oh, really?
And he was like, if you're a quarterback, you have to be really good or well liked by your team. And he was
said if
naming
you want to be really good,
if you want to be a quarterback in this league and have a winning team or something like that, you have to be really good or very well liked. And he was naming off quarterbacks, and he was like, some of both. And he's like, yeah, like Rodgers, really good. And I can't remember all. He went through a lot of quarterbacks, and he was like, really good, well liked, rare few or both. And then he even started saying how then they do like the NFL honors, and he's on the red carpet doing interviews, and he was like, Travis Kelce, Mahomes, Josh Allen, or whatever, all come up and do interviews, and then when Russell Wilson and Sierra walk by, and they're like, oh hey, then he literally said Russell and them will put their hands over their face and walk by like, we don't want to do an interview today, and he's just like,
oh god,
why did you come to the NFL honors if you don't want to be interviewed? Like,
so he's, I guess he's just buying into that celebrity life since he's married to a celebrity.
Yeah, who knows? But not to just take a dump on the Broncos because two teams played Thursday. The Colts. There's good wins, there's ugly wins, and then there's whatever you want to call Thursday night. Because I don't know. I guess they could have taken a tie, but that would have been even worse. But I mean, look, Matt Ryan, he's completes 50% of his passes, 250 yards, 2 interceptions. He's sacked
6 times.
6 times, fumbled the ball again. Luckily, I think Quentin Nelson was able to hop on it to save the possession. They had already lost Jonathan Taylor. Hines gets knocked out like the second play of the game. bring it. Luckily, Deion Jackson and then Philip Lindsay, they combined for about 100 yards rushing. It's just, and then I think teams just figured out, just don't let Michael Pittman go deep.
Mm-hmm.
And the Colts offense can't do too much.
Yeah, I mean, Pittman, what did you say? Or if you said he had 5 yards, 5 catches, 60
For
yards.
60 yards. Yeah, just don't let Pittman kill you. And Alec Pierce, their rookie, he's getting better each week, but he seems to be making plays kind of in the second half when they're trying to. Well, this game they aren't trying to catch up; they're just trying to score a touchdown to win the game.
Yeah,
but.
yeah, and I mean he's getting. I know in this game I was watching live when he was getting a lot of his catches, and I mean his stats is 8 for 81, so he's getting those 10-yard catches, which are first down plays. But like you said, it's a lot of second half stuff, and Matt Ryan, I guess his arm's just a little faded, so doesn't have too many options with where he's thrown around the field. I would say, like you said, a win's a win in the NFL. But if you could pick a game as like I don't even want to say it's a bad win because a win's a win, and they're 2-2-1, in a division that's nobody's really taken and ran off with, but they should have lost that game. The Broncos had 2 opportunities in the red zone at the end of regulation and at the end of overtime to score a touchdown. And both were bad plays by the Broncos. And if the Broncos offense is really that bad, give credit to the Colts defense, but would that have happened if the Colts were playing the Chiefs or some other offense that has it a little bit more together than the Broncos? Probably not. So I'm not reading too much into this win for the Colts. I definitely think it's more about the Broncos, but like we said, a win's a win. So getting these wins early in the season are important if you're in the mix later in the season, which I just don't think they will be, but we'll see.
Yeah, both these teams have kind of dug themselves in a hole. Like you said, it is early, but they're I think all 3 of these teams, well, it's so early they could still come back, but just from the way they look, it's just like you're not feeling it would take a massive turnaround, like a complete change of like almost like a complete culture change, or like something big would have to happen to get their season back on track.
Mm-hmm.
But enough of that. That game already happened. Most of y'all probably watched it. It was on Amazon Prime. It's in the past. Going on to what's happening now. Playing in London. Kickoff was at 9:30. The Packers are currently leading that game 10-3. Again, we kind of a little sarcastic earlier. This isn't going to be the most flashy game in the world, but both teams come into this game. I think my notes up. Both teams are 3-1. So winner of this is going to go to 4-1, keeping up with the Eagles in the NFC. The loser is going to kind of drop back to the middle of the pack. But I mean, this game is going to be Aaron Rodgers versus the rushing attack that is Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, it's 10-3 right now. Saquon Barkley has 5 carries for only 14 yards. Daniel Jones is 4 for 8 for 45 yards, so they haven't gotten too much going on offense in the first quarter. It's early in the second quarter now. I talked about this a little bit. For my Saquon Barkley being my MVP of Week 4, just because he is the Giants. He's their offense. They're going to go as he goes, which is tough to do for a whole year. I mean, it's not the NFL isn't the NBA where you can have a superstar MVP caliber player who's going to carry your team to the playoffs. In the NFL, it just doesn't happen. I think Daniel Jones has made some good plays this year. he still looks like a mediocre quarterback. I know they don't have a ton of weapons on the outside, and obviously that helps a quarterback. I don't know how their O-lines particularly performed this year. I think it's been okay. They have two young tackles, right? The rookie and
Andrew
Andrew
Thomas.
Yeah.
The Giants O-line, I think they're a very good run blocking O-line. Well, I don't have the advanced numbers, but from what I've seen in the games I've watched, it looks like they're pretty good as a whole run blocking. But in like obvious pass rush scenarios, both tackles have issues with speed rushes, which can be problematic if this team gets behind. But for the most part, especially behind those two big tackles, they can push the D line back.
Yeah. The Packers, on the other hand, Aaron Rodgers is looking pretty good. He's 12 of 16 and he's got a touchdown. Who's got the touchdown?
Lazard.
Alan Lazard. He's gotten a touchdown in every game this year, hasn't he? 4 or 5 touchdowns.
Good for him. I wasn't aware. I would have picked him up in fantasy. Jeez.
He may not have had one last week, but I'm pretty sure he's had it. Like, he hasn't done too much, but he's gotten a touchdown.
He has 2 touchdowns on the year.
Oh, 2?
Yeah.
Oh. Was it at least week 1 and 2?
It was this week and then week 3.
Like, obviously, I'm thinking of somebody else. Somebody in the league has a touchdown almost every week, and that's it. But their other young receivers came on last week. Was it Romeo Dubs? Yeah. So I mean, if Aaron Rodgers is able to get on the same page with those receivers and they're able to make progress, they should be a pretty formidable team this year. I think as far as 3-1 records go in the NFL, the Packers are definitely more real than the Giants record. The Giants played some not the greatest talent. The Packers have beat the Bucs already. I think what was that, like 14-12 or something weird like that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Packers. First of all, it's Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to do his. I know a lot of people don't like him, but he's going to do his thing. The O line's banged up, but when healthy, the duo of Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon can, pound a lot of defenses into submission. And then you got the reliable Randall Cobb, and you sprinkle in Romeo Dubs, Christian Watson, maybe if he gets better throughout the year, Alan Lazard. Aaron Rodgers is good enough that he can elevate them. But you look at the defense, their DBs, Eric Stokes and Jaheir Alexander, are playing very well. You got Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary up front. They are both great at stopping the run, and then any pass rush you get from them is a bonus. Kenny Clark, breaks through for a couple sacks. And then after all that, they got Devondre Campbell just roaming around playing all-pro linebacker. And then there's plenty of other players in that defense. So this is a solid team, and they're going to be competing with the Vikings for that division. My biggest complaint with the Giants is their receiving core. Sterling Shepard's out. Kenny Galladay, is that the worst
turned out to be
signing? Yeah.
It turned out to be a bad signing.
Wendell Robinson, their rookie, and then Tony, their second-year receiver, both kind of explosive, twitchy guys, have both been out most of the year. Darius Slayton, who I like, but has been apparently in Dable's doghouse all year, finally getting some action. He has a catch for 26 yards. But then, if this offense just isn't great right now, and if the Packers scored to end the half, make it 17-3, you can kind of take some of that rushing ability away from the Giants.
Yeah, and I guess the Giants haven't really. I don't know who they've. What was Tooney? a second round pick, late first,
I think he was an early second.
early second round pick, and he's kind of he's shown flashes here and there, but I think he's been injured.
Yeah.
I think the Packers just scored. Aaron Rodgers scored another touchdown, but putting them up 16-3. But I think the Giants were drafted. They drafted Saquon Barkley 4 years ago now, or is this his fifth year? This is his fourth year.
Who?
Saquon.
Yeah, fourth, fifth.
Anyways, they drafted him. They've drafted. They just got the offensive. I think they drafted the tackle this year, and then who's their other top pick? They had 2 top 10 picks.
Yeah, what's his face?
Defensive
end out of
Thibodeau.
Oregon, Thibodeau.
Yeah, he's injured, right?
Yeah. Well, no, he's back healthy, but
okay.
Yeah.
Well, he did get injured. They dodged the bullet there, but then their second round pick was a guard too. I think they definitely need to. Obviously, if this season falls apart, they're probably going to end up drafting a quarterback in the first round. But if they stay relatively competitive and somehow make the playoffs, or if they're 8-9, 7-10, or somewhere around there, maybe try to draft a weapon for whoever their quarterback ends up being. I'm not sure off the top of my head how many years Daniel Jones has left.
Here, I'm going to have some thoughts on this. I think, and my thoughts on quarterbacks have changed throughout the years. I do believe just bringing in a young rookie quarterback, whatever, into a bad team, that helps nobody. But the Giants have a solid roster, and I assume they are going to build it up moving forward. In my opinion, Daniel Jones is not the guy. He might, sneak them into the playoffs. He might have flashes here and there, but he's not the guy. And I think the longer you stick with him, the longer it's going to hurt them down the road. He's not that guy. I, as of late, have been saying that if your quarterback is not, and this is what people are going to probably say I'm stupid, but if your quarterback is not at least Ryan Tannehill level, you should be looking to replace your quarterback the next year. Not doing it mid-season or whatever, but by the next year, whether it's through a high draft pick or probably a trade, because good quarterbacks don't hit free agency.
If they're a few years into the league already.
Yes.
Like at least 2.
I would say probably 3.
Okay, so by year 3, if they're not on Tannehill level, look for a new quarterback, or by year 4?
No, by year 3.
Okay.
Just because a lot of teams that are just piecing together with quarterbacks off the street or trying to hit on late round. I mean, yeah, you got like the Russell Wilsons of the world, or Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott. That rarely happens unless you just take a flyer on a mid-round quarterback and they work out. So if the Giants are like, we're sort of sold on Daniel Jones, but we're going to take like a third-round quarterback to see what's going to happen, that just doesn't work. And I think Daboll is going to have a very good roster put together by next year, and they'll need to have either taken, like you said, a first-round quarterback or traded for a solid quarterback that's just not wanted anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the top passers for this year in terms of yards, it's Justin Herbert, first-round pick, Josh Allen, first-round pick, Jared Goff, first-round pick, Matt Ryan, first-round pick 20 years ago. Jalen Hurts, just outside of the first round. Patrick Mahomes, first round. Joe Burrow, first round. Tom Brady, that doesn't count anymore.
Freak.
Derek Carr, second round. Then Geno Smith was actually a first rounder, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
And then Tua was a first rounder. Wentz, first rounder. But anyways, so I mean, it is hard to patch a quarterback in off the streets or a later round pick and have them be successful. So I mean, I think you're right.
It's just the way the league goes. If you look back in the until recently, sorry, if you look back until recently, unless you were a can't miss quarterback prospect, you didn't go early. Teams got linemen, running backs, defensive line, and that was all the top picks. Nowadays, it's like if you're not a left tackle or a stud defensive end or maybe an elite receiver prospect, you don't go early in the draft. And it's just the first round until this year, of course, is just littered in any quarterback that people think have a chance. So if you don't grab one of those quarterbacks, the draft class is basically depleted of talent later on.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL's obviously changed in the last decade, and it's definitely a quarterbacks league and an offensive league, and they're making it more difficult for the defenses. Off the top of my head, I feel like I'm sure team quarterbacks have always been picked early throughout NFL's history, and obviously, we haven't been literally watching football for 50 years, so we don't have firsthand experience back in the day in the drafts. But I feel like recently it seemed like maybe in the last like 7 to 10 years is when quarterbacks started getting reached on a lot in the first round when they didn't have that. Like the one that pops into my head is like EJ Manuel. He wasn't a first round
Oof.
grade, was he?
I don't know what happened with that. I think the Bills coach at the time was just like, I'm going to get a first round quarterback to save my job.
Yeah, I feel like for my memory, my recent memory, it was like that year and after is when teams started to really just like you said, go for any quarterback that's any kind of
Right.
decent draft grade, and hoping that they're going to be their quarterback of the future rather than getting those more surefire, trench guys or whatever you need. Because I mean, it does, for the most part, the more successful teams have a good O line, D line, some kind of combination of that.
Yeah. And just for the Packers Giants game, Barkley just ripped off a 40-yard run. So
He's
we'll
their
see.
offense.
Yep, they go through him. So I think that does it for the Packers Giants game. Just to throw out my prediction, I had the Packers winning 24-17. So we'll see if the Giants can put any points on the board.
I had the Packers winning 28-24.
Did I say Giants winning?
I think you may have, but
I
know
meant Packers winning 24-17.
Yeah, I knew you had the Packers, so we'll see how that turns out.
All right, so let's go to the number 2 game I guess the number 3 game to talk about on our schedule today. At the Washington Commanders. This is not the most exciting game in the world, but if you look at the schedule for this week, there is not a ton of amazing games out there. Titans are coming in facing the Commanders. Titans 2-2, Commanders 1-3. Titans getting to 3-2 will certainly help them in the race to win the AFC South, and Commanders dropping to 1-4 might be the nail in their season. I believe this is a game, just to keep it simple, that Derrick Henry is going to take over.
Yeah, the Commanders' run defense hasn't been particularly that great. Obviously, they went up against decent rushing teams. They had James Robinson week 1, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams week 2, Philadelphia Eagles group running game, and then Cowboys as well with Pollard and Elliott. And I'm pretty sure they've given up a substantial amount of rush yards in each game. So tall task against a Derrick Henry running with a full head of steam the last 2 weeks. What does he have, like 300 yards in the last 2 weeks?
It's like 250, I
275,
think. I think it's
250.
like 250.
Yeah, so I mean, after a slow 2 weeks, he's definitely came on as of late. I could definitely see this being like a 30 rush attempt day. Oh, maybe 25 at least for Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the head-to-head, not the head-to-head, but the stat matchup, these two teams aren't that far off. The Titans seem to be winning in spite of some of their deficiencies, but this Washington team, they're going to go as far as the team is on Carson Wentz back, and they're going to go as far as he can take them, for better or worse. But going off last year with Wentz and the AFC South playing for the Colts, the Titans seem to have his number. I think in 2 games last year, he threw 4 picks against the Titans, and Titans are without Treylon Burks. They're on pace to, I think, break the record they set last year for the number of players that they field throughout the year, which is unfortunate.
The Titans are going to break their record from last year.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I think they're on pace to play like 91. I don't know even how you estimate that. I don't know. I saw some stat about, like, because of injuries, how many different like combinations of players they've had on the field.
Mm.
But yeah, my thing here is, if you look at the Titans outside of Derrick Henry, what's the best thing they got going for them? Their D line. According to Pro Football Focus, they have the number 3 rated D line in the league. They're one of the best at pass rush efficiency, and they are not great against the run. The Washington O-line is not too good. Trey Turner at right guard, he is having a pretty poor year for them. And Wentz, I mean, how many times did the Eagles sack him? 9 times?
9 times. I
Yeah,
think he got sacked a couple more times against Dallas too.
Yeah, he's just constantly under duress, and he's not able to deliver the ball to Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, and I always forget his name. What's the
Jahan Dotson.
Washington? Jahan Dotson. He's out this
He's
week.
out today, yeah.
Yeah. And, Brian Robinson, he's making his first start of the year, but it's going to be his first game. There's going to be a little bit of rust. I think he's on a snap count too. And then there's the old reliable, what's the Commanders running back?
Antonio Gibson.
Antonio Fumbleitis Gibson, who, for whatever reason, if you give him a ball, a carry in the red zone, it's an instant fumble. I don't know why, but he fumbles a lot, and he fumbles in the worst time.
Yeah, I think some of the stuff you said about Carson Wentz, he's putting up pretty good statistics. That's not the right one. I think he's top 10 in the league. Top 5 he was. He's floating around top 10 in the league in yards. He has 8 touchdowns on the year. He does have 5 interceptions. He's taken 17 sacks, as you alluded to. 9 were against the Eagles. He's in tough situations. Your quarterback needs to be able to make, especially when your offensive line is playing poor, your quarterback needs to be able to make quick reads, get the ball out of his hands quickly, or try to take the best play possible. And if the worst play possible is taking a 2 or 1 yard sack, take that. But Wentz is doing what he's done throughout his whole career, and he's, it's always been boom or bust for Wentz outside of 2017. He's gonna make miraculous plays because he tries to make miraculous plays every single play, trying to get that deep touchdown or whatever the case may be. And he fumbles a lot. dancing around the pocket. He's a big guy, 6'5", 250, athletic. Maybe not as fast as he was pre-injury, but he can make guys miss. And I think that's always been his downfall because he wants to be, Superman back there. And he gets fumbled or he throws an interception. And he's always had problems checking the ball down to guys in the flat. I don't know if it's technique or whatever the problem is. It's just he doesn't give guys a good opportunity to make a play with a short catch, or he misses them completely. And as you said, the Titans have guys that can get after him today. How many sacks do the Titans have on the year?
Put me in this.
10. I don't know what that is in terms of league rankings, but I mean, did you mention Rashad Weaver? He has 4 sacks.
Yeah, well, he's taken over for Harold Landry. So he's like kind of there. And then Bud Dupree, I think he's played maybe like 40 minutes all year, and he's not playing today.
Okay. Jeffrey Simmons he's graded as one of the better defensive
He
players in
got
the
2
league.
sacks. He got 2 sacks against the Giants. It basically gets pressures consistently, and the quarterbacks, they might not be getting sacked a lot, but there's always someone in their face. We gave him a shout out. We gave him a shout out on our Twitter. Tier Tart with his interception against the Colts, but just to give some credit, what's his name? Brian Baldinger. He breaks down like his favorite plays throughout the week. It's a good follow on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
He broke down a bunch of Tart's plays, and he showed like 2 plays where Tart was like rushing the center, and Quentin Nelson came from the side to like kind of blow him out of the gap,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't even move.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, well, he's like one of those like short, chunky fellas.
Mm-hmm.
And the Titans have a lot of guys that a lot of people have, like Weaver, Tart, Kevin Strong's playing really good. Jeffrey Simmons is one of probably the best defensive linemen in all of football, and I'm sure if I went to people that said they were NFL fans on the street, they wouldn't know who he was. But yeah, I think if Carson Wentz was better protected, this Commanders team is doing a lot better, but he's not. So that's the reality we live in. I saw someone posted on this like social media, and it was like NFL hot takes, and he was like, if Wentz was on the Steelers, they would be undefeated.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't know, but it was hot takes for a reason, but someone posted that.
I don't know. I mean, Carson Wentz's passer rating, according to PFF, in a clean pocket is only 87. So, I mean, saying that if Washington had the best offensive line in the league, that doesn't, it's not automatic that Carson Wentz would be out here playing like an NDP. I think a run game would help them. I just don't know if a game against the Titans is really going to help. I think the Titans are going to be able to possess the ball with Derrick Henry running, and Tannehill hasn't been that bad this year. I mean, he has over 100 rating in a clean pocket and almost an 80 rating in a under pressure.
I was going to say, considering the fact that our O-line's bad and injured, and Titans don't have the best receiving cast in the league, Tannehill gets his fair share of hate, but I wouldn't, be complaining about him too much this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're both in agreement. Neither of these teams are amazing, but if you got to put money on the game, you're putting it on the Titans.
Yeah, I have the Titans winning. After we just had our conversation about it, I don't really like my score anymore, but I'm going to stick with what I picked yesterday, and I have the Titans winning 27-24. I think it might be a little bit too high. but that's what I'm going to stick with.
Yeah, similarly, I have the Titans 24-20. I think it's going to be I think both defenses will allow a big play here and there, but it's going to be mainly the Titans' ability to pressure the quarterback and control the clock, and they'll squeeze out a win here.
I agree.
All right. Going on to our next game, we have the Dallas Cowboys at the LA Rams. This is the game. I'll say it. This is the game. Cooper Rush comes in, takes out the Rams, and he locks in his starter as a Cowboys for the rest of the year. It's going to happen.
Did you pick Dallas?
No. It was sarcasm because
that's what I thought. You confused me because you got me good there.
Because Dak is going to come back and take over, of course. And some could argue that Dak's injury maybe helped the Cowboys because going back to last year, this team didn't look great. They won, because of the raw talent on the roster. But I think playing with Cooper Rush has forced McCarthy and the rest of the coaching staff, even the players, to see that this team is built to win in a specific way, and they need to stick to that routine.
As in running with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah, run the ball, take some shots on play action, and put the game in the hands of your D-line.
Yeah. Let me pull this back up. The Cowboys, they got 2 division wins the last 2 weeks against Washington and New York. We mentioned it before, Tony Pollard and Zeke. They had, I can't remember now if it was against Washington and New York. They had good game, but I think they did decent. But Rush just kind of came on the last 2 weeks with CeeDee Lamb and that connection. And I think you're right. Maybe with Dak Prescott, they fall into that realm of you pay your quarterback that huge contract and you need to let the quarterback be the guy who wins you every game. I'm not saying that happens all the time, but I do think that happens to some NFL teams. Like you don't want to pay a quarterback $40 million a year and then them be a game manager who makes just enough plays to get your team to win, but you're relying more on other aspects of your team as the Cowboys are with their defense. Their defense has been really impressive, especially the pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we mentioned their run game a couple times. It's been pretty good too. But mostly their defense has been good.
If you had to pick which of these teams is scoring more points per game, who would you pick?
Before the season, I would say the Rams for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's probably the Cowboys.
Yeah, the Cowboys are averaging 17.8 per game, which is 27th in the league. Rams are averaging 17.5, which is 29th in the league. So both teams are struggling to put points on the board. The only difference is one team has a top 5 defense and the other does not.
Yeah, the Rams in their 2 losses have scored 19 combined points. In one of their wins against the Cardinals, they only scored 20 points. And so really the only game their offense has performed well this year was against the Falcons when they scored 31 points, and they almost gave that game up to them.
They got lucky in that game.
Yeah.
So did we, going back to all of our off-season discussions, were we that wrong in saying that Stafford's elbow issue was no big deal and that Allen Robinson was going to come over and be just a stud from the get-go?
I remember that conversation. We said it shouldn't be an issue as far as his elbow, But I think we said I think we were talking about if they could lose, it might be a bigger issue than was led on to be. But I mean, so far this year, Allen Robinson's pretty much been a non-factor. Their whole offense has been non-existent. Besides, it's Cooper Kupp, right? I think the D'Amico Ryans, the 49ers defensive coordinator, he said, I can't quote him because I don't remember the exact quote, but he pretty much said it's Cooper Kupp or nothing. Figure out how to take Cooper Kupp out of the game or contain him the best you can, because that's all you can really do.
Mm-hmm.
And their running backs aren't playing well. Their offensive line's not doing great. Stafford's not doing great.
The defense.
Jalen, I'm not saying he's a bad corner. He's a really good corner. He's one of the best, if not the best in the league, but he's not having a great year.
Debo Samuel just ran over their entire defense last week.
Yeah, that was an impressive play.
Well, he had like 2 or 3 plays where he got the ball, made someone miss, juked out someone else, ran around someone else. And
yeah, it's funny. The Rams, I don't know how accurate this is. Do they have the 4th ranked defense and the 12th ranked offense?
Like ranked as far as what?
That's PFF. I don't know. I don't know if that's PFF's
rating.
Yeah, I just pulled it up really quick. I don't know if that's PFF's rating rankings or like that's their statistical rankings.
It's gotta be their rated ranking because I have their like yardage and point stats right here, and it does not add up.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Because their points for, they're 29th in the league. Their defense, they're 18th in points. Yards, they're 28th in the league. So yeah, their offense has been largely disappointing.
Super Bowl hangovers are a real thing.
Yep. And were you a fan of the Allen Robinson signing, or I feel like you questioned it?
No. I was a huge fan. I thought he was going to completely open up their offense and help them potentially repeat.
Do you know how many yards he has on the year?
Like 90?
95.
Yeah. And I only know this because he got dropped in one of my fantasy leagues, and I picked him up just as a flyer in case things get turned around.
Yeah, so I mean, just looking at their receiving stats as a team, Cooper Kupp has 54 targets, 42 receptions, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. Second is Tyler Higbee, who's had a decent year. He doesn't have any touchdowns, but he has 38 targets, 26 receptions for 250 yards. But then there's a huge drop off.
Yeah, Ben, what's his name? Ben Skoranek or whatever.
Skoranek.
He has more yards than Allen Robinson, I think.
He has 140 yards.
Yeah.
16 targets, 12 catches, and Allen Robinson has 18 targets. So I mean, pretty much outside of Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee, there's nothing on their offense. Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers both have under 140 yards. They have 1 touchdown a pop too. Their yards per carry is also not that impressive at 4.1 and 3.1. So Super Bowl hangover seems to be the case.
Also, when your best player, Aaron Donald, wants to retire, then you supposedly convince him to stay, and that's never a great sign.
Yeah, and I don't think, talking about the Cowboys a little bit, I don't think this is a great matchup because I think would
you say the Cowboys are built not even besides that, the Cowboys are built similarly to the 49ers?
Yeah.
They got
a star receiver. They
good
have
run game.
I mean, Cooper Rush.
Jimmy G
could be
is
comparable to Jimmy G.
And they got a great pass rush. A couple guys on the defense, the rest of the defense that can make plays here and there.
Mm. Yeah, I mean it's a fair comparison. I mean, if you can get after the quarterback the way Dallas can, I'm pretty sure they're still first in the league in sacks a game. At what do they have? They have 15 sacks as a team. Michael Parsons leading the way with 4. So, I mean, if you can get after the quarterback consistently, it's going to give any team in the NFL trouble, and it's going to give your team a chance to win. I think Tony Pollard was questionable coming into this game. I'm not sure if he's suiting up or not, if they've decided that. So if he's out and they have to lean on Ezekiel Elliott and Rush, that could be a little bit of a problem. I think.
Yeah, I don't think they've ruled him out yet, but he is questionable. So is CeeDee Lamb. He's questionable with a groin injury. That could be.
I think I saw Lamb was playing. I wasn't sure about Pollard, but as many struggles as the Rams have had, they still have stars. You said Aaron Donald. They have Jalen Ramsey. They have other players on their defense that can take advantage of a player like Cooper Rush. And Zeke just doesn't have the same burst he used to have. He can play well in a system with Tony Pollard, but I think that's important if Tony Pollard's playing or not. I haven't watched all the Cowboys games, so I could be overestimating that. But
yeah,
I think
you would think after all this discussion, I picked the Cowboys to win, but I'm going with the Rams at home. But the main thing I wanted to say is, like, this Cowboys team, I really do think the Dak Prescott injury helped them out, and it'll be typical Cowboys fashion if Dak comes back from an injury and they fall apart.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they would have won against Tampa Bay with Rush, obviously. But if they do change the way their offense has been running, once Dak gets back and it does fall apart, that would be typical Dallas fashion. They shouldn't rush Dak back either. I mean, he had surgery on his throwing hand. And I mean, if you can't grip the football, I know that's the thing. I think Dak said he wanted to play this week too. That was the reports, but they're keeping him out.
Yeah.
I mean, until Cooper Rush, it's just a sticky situation because Dak Prescott's your $40 million a year man. And
also, if the Eagles keep winning, that is going to put pressure on the Cowboys to try and keep up.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't look like the Giants are going to win today, but them too, of course. So I'm with you though. I think the Cowboys are playing well. I didn't have high expectations for them this year, and I thought the Rams they're a playoff caliber team. Obviously, they're a Super Bowl team. I just think that the Rams have enough big time players. Cooper Kupp, Ramsey's, those types of players to overcome what the Cowboys have been doing well this year. And I have the Rams winning 24-20.
I have the Rams winning 23-17. I just think Sean McVay is a good enough coach that he can come in and say, all right, first things first, stop the run. And then to say, hey, Jalen Ramsey, you're one of the best corners in the league. Shut down CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you lose, the season's over. Not really, but it kind of is.
We'll see what happens.
All right, moving on to our next game of the week. Philadelphia Eagles at the Arizona Cardinals. We have the undefeated Eagles coming in to face the, I guess we'll say, struggling Cardinals, right? The Eagles are a 5.5-point road favorite, so that's pretty telling of how the experts see the game. But this is your team, so I'll let you have the first say.
Yeah, the thing that stands out to me the most with this game is the Eagles start off games pretty well, particularly the second quarter. Their second quarter stats are pretty astonishing. I don't have them off the top right now, but the amount of points you're scoring in the second quarter is ridiculous. The Cardinals have been a second half team this
Out of
season.
necessity.
Yes. Not saying they're not playing out of their minds in the second half. They've been playing from behind. They just haven't been playing well in the first half. I should say that rather than saying that they're a good second half team. And that's a bad combination for the Eagles, who are one of the more complete teams in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is playing at a high level. Miles Sanders is having the best year of his career. A.J. Brown has been as advertised. Devontae Smith has played well as the second receiver to A.J. Brown. Dallas Goedert, we were talking about this in the week 4 show. I think I mentioned it, that Dallas Goedert, I can't remember if we mentioned it or not, but Dallas Goedert leads the league in yak yards. Not as just tight ends, but as wide receivers and running backs as well. So that's pretty impressive. And their defense has played really well. They lead the league in turnover differential at +8. The defense is getting to the quarterback. They're getting interceptions. They're getting fumbles. And I just think if they can get out to a big lead against the Cardinals, it's just a good matchup from that standpoint. I do think, I'm going to pull the stats here. I think the Cardinals, Hudson is out today. He's listed as doubtful. Their center, Rodney Hudson, he's doubtful. I don't know if these guys are starters or not, but their guard Pugh and tackle Humphreys are both questionable.
No, they're starters.
I'm pretty sure they're playing, but Hudson being out at center is rough. I think this is going to be a big game for the rookie Davis, the Eagles. Jordan Davis tackle. I sound like a terrible fan forgetting his first name. He's been progressively playing more and making more plays. And I think with Hudson out, you stick him in the middle a little bit extra today. Don't let the Cardinals run game get going and set that tone early, as they have been, the Eagles. And they should be able to come out with a victory. I do think, just to say, as the Cardinals, I do think Kyler Murray is very talented. But DeAndre Hopkins isn't back yet. I think that'll help them a little bit. And, you don't want to take players with that caliber of skill lightly, especially ones that can run around in the pocket and make plays with their legs. So they got to make sure they have the contain on Kyler.
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals, they're a miracle ending against the Raiders from being 1-3. They were even for most of the game against the Panthers, just back and forth, ugly football, and then they kind of scored like 2 touchdowns towards the end to put the game away. But if you look at, Kyler, he has a 85 rating on the year, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 900, almost 1,000 yards, 65 completion percentage. But their offense doesn't look right. Hollywood Brown's kind of heating up, but the Eagles can put Darius Slay or James Bradbury on them, and both those corners, they're perfectly fine being physical with wide receivers, and Hollywood Brown historically doesn't like when you put hands on them. Zach Ertz probably has been their most consistent receiver, and the Eagles can probably roll coverage. I don't know what you might be able to pull us up what Kyler Murray's stats are when he's pressured, but if I were the Eagles, you get a lead, control the clock.
I can give you his passer rating.
What is it?
26.
Yeah, I was going to say, get a lead, control the clock, and then I'm sending pressure the whole second half. And if he, becomes a Houdini and sneaks out for a bomb or a big run, so be it. But I am pressuring him the entire – they just don't have – they're out Rondale Moore. They're out DeAndre Hopkins. James Conner is banged up. Their whole O-line is banged up. I would just pressure until the game's out of hand.
Yeah, I will say the Eagles have some starters out. Jordan Mailata's out. The left tackle. Maddox is out again today. Their slot corner. I do think the Cardinals pass rush hasn't really been that impressive. JJ Watt's had some decent plays this year, but they only have 4 sacks on the year as a team. I do think Zach Ertz, they're going to have to pay attention to him. What's that matchup going to be? Are they going to bring a safety down on him maybe and Marcus Epps or Gardner, or are they going to try to stick TJ Edwards or a Kaiser Whites of the world on him? I mean, Eagles fans know Zach Ertz very well. He's one of the best route running tight ends of all time, I think. I think you're right as far as Slay and Bradbury go. I'm not too concerned with Marcus Brown. Just don't let him get over the top. And I think you're right. If the Eagles can get any kind of lead, a 2-touchdown lead or a 10-point, maybe not a 10-point lead, but if they can get up to a 14-point lead in the second half and just unleash the pass rush, which Jonathan Gannon has shown he'll do more this year than he has in the past, which is blitz the quarterback, and he's been doing it at the right time. I think it could be a long day for the Cardinals. I do think they have the talent to score some points, especially in the second half if the Eagles leave their foot off the gas. But I think it has the potential to be kind of a shootout type game with Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray. I don't think the Arizona's defense is anything to write home about, but we'll see what happens. I do have the Eagles winning this game.
Yeah, I just we said it. I don't like what I'm seeing from the Cardinals. Eagles are undefeated for a reason. Will they stay undefeated? Who knows? But they're a very complete team playing against a team that has Kyler Murray is basically carrying the team on his back just to barely get by the Raiders and then to pull away against the Cardinals with Baker Mayfield playing maybe the worst game I feel like I have watched him play as far as the eye test. So I don't have a lot of faith in this.
I was just going to say that before you went on, that a lot of people have been saying this could be a trap game for the Eagles. I disagree because we have Cowboys. We're playing Cowboys next week, prime time. Sorry, I shouldn't say we, but I don't think the Eagles they weren't looked at as a team to come into this year. To us, we had our predictions. We had them winning a lot of games, but I don't think as a whole, I think to themselves too, they had a lot to prove. I just don't see that the 5th game in the season against a team that has talent being a trap game. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I've been hearing that a lot.
I feel like it's hard to be a trap game considering Kyler Murray is regarded as a top quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
Could you lose? Yeah, if James Conner, has a great game and for whatever reason Hollywood Brown's uncoverable. I just, any given Sunday, but I'm just going off what I see, and I see the Eagles winning 31-20.
I have it being a little bit closer than that. I try to keep my expectations realistic. I have the Eagles winning 31-27. I think it's possible the Eagles stick to what they've been doing and they get out to a 20. They score 20-something points in the first half, and the Cardinals have like 7. And then the Cardinals are throwing the ball all second half and score a few touchdowns. And the Eagles score just enough to keep them to have the win. So we'll see what happens.
Who knows? This Eagles team is very well rounded. They can stop the run. They can rush the passer. They can cover very well. And then they can control the clock, run the ball with Hurts and their rotation of running backs, or they're fairly loaded in the receiver tight end department, so Hurts can just throw the ball against you. So it's kind of pick your poison. They can win multiple ways. It should be a good game to watch. Definitely tune in. It's Hurts versus Murray. It's two of the better young quarterbacks in the league, but I got the Eagles winning this. All right. Our last matchup that we're going to break down for the day. The Baltimore Ravens are at the Cincinnati Bengals. This is the Sunday night game for the week, so don't miss it. This is, I guess, is this the new rivalry in the AFC North? I don't know. But the Ravens are going to be out for revenge after the Bengals swept them last year in sort of embarrassing fashion. Both teams are 2-2, going for the race for the division along with the Browns. And it's Lamar Jackson versus Joe Burrow. So this is the marquee matchup of the week.
Yeah, I mean, both. You got the Bengals who have came on of the last 2 weeks offensively, with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins had a big play against the Dolphins. Excuse me. Of course, I got Joe Mixon, and then the Ravens are the Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews show for the most part. I think this will be a high-scoring affair.
Yeah, just to address some things on the Bengals end, Hurst is questionable. T. Higgins is questionable. I think they said Higgins is likely to play, but you got to go through warmups and see. On the Ravens, Ben Cleveland, Justice Hill, Justin Houston, and Rashad Bateman are all out, so that is going to hurt. Marcus Peters, he's questionable, but he didn't practice all week, so I will be surprised if he does play. And then Ronnie Stanley is making his long-awaited debut this season. We will see supposedly, we'll see how he holds up. Last time he took the field against the Raiders week 1 last year when he was supposedly ready to go, he could not block anyone. So we will see how that goes. My main concern is the Ravens defense. They haven't looked good this year.
23rd ranked defense in terms of points, 30th in the league in terms of yards, 32nd in terms of passing, which we know why is because of the Dolphins game, and then their second half woes.
And this is the thing: the Ravens defense has trouble covering receivers, and they have trouble rushing the passer. The Bengals like to throw the ball, and the Bengals have a bad O-line. So this is a game that favors the Bengals. They're actually the underdog in this game. Ravens are 3-point favorites, which is a little surprising considering some of the injuries.
I mean, I think it's in Baltimore, and Lamar Jackson has been playing out of his mind for the most part, and the Ravens could be undefeated right now outside of some poor coaching decisions and a defense that's been subpar, to say the least, in the second half of games or in general. I do think that Bateman being out is going to hurt. Justin Houston, even though he's older, I think he leads their team with sacks and 2.
Yeah, I think
even though their pass rush isn't that great in general. I think if the Ravens want to win this game, I think they need to change it up a little bit and try to just pound the ball down.
Go back to their 2019 ways.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins looked pretty good last week. He's back and healthy. Try to get that power read option offense, like you said they had in 2019. Run the ball a lot, get the play action going with Lamar Jackson to Mark Andrews. Keep that Bengals offense off the field as much as possible, especially in the second half. And that's what the Ravens haven't been doing in the second half. I know Lamar Jackson's been good, but and I know he's been running the ball well. He's their leading rusher by far. But if you can sustain drives by running the ball in the second half with leads, that's how you end the game, and you're keeping the other team off the field. So it's a win-win. So I feel like that's pretty obvious for what they need to do against this Bengals offense.
Yeah, this Ravens team, they're 2-2. They've only trailed for a total of 14 seconds all year.
I just saw that stat.
They've had the lead in all 4 games for all but 14 seconds, and they are 2-2. So they've had 2 heartbreaking losses against Dolphins and the Bills. 2 good teams, and then they beat the Jets and what was their other win?
They beat the Jets and the Patriots.
Jets and the Patriots. Even that Patriots team, the game they were trying. It looks like they were trying to blow the lead again, but they got a nice fumble at the end of the game, and Mac Jones got hurt. But looking at the Bengals, T. Higgins, outside of being banged up, is having a great year. Jamar Chase is he's getting a little slowed down this year, but he's still one of the more explosive receivers in the league. I think he's second in the league in 10-plus yard catches. Joe Mixon, he's not super efficient, but they are giving him the ball. They're trying to keep teams honest, slow down the pass rush, protect Joe Burrow, which is actually good to see. Last year they were, bombs away all year, but Joe Burrow was still getting sacked a ton. The Bengals spent all this money on a new O-line, and it doesn't look much better. Lael Collins is awful. He's one of those players where if it wasn't for his price tag, he probably wouldn't be on the field. But it should be a good game. Look for the Ravens, like you said, try and run the ball. Target Mark Andrews. They're going to have to try and get Duvernay involved, seeing that he's going to be their best receiver with Bateman out. I don't know how much that's going to work. Bengals, I believe, have one of the better pass defenses in the league this year. I believe.
The Bengals.
Yeah.
They have 7 sacks. I don't know. I don't know what that leads in the league. It's not terrible.
But their cornerback play has been, I believe, pretty good. This is going to be. I think it's going to be a close game. I like both of these quarterbacks to kind of go off prime time. I am sorry, but I just don't trust this Ravens defense, especially if Marcus Peters doesn't play. I really don't like this matchup.
Yeah. You were talking about Mixon not having the greatest year. They've at least committed to running him no matter what. His yards per carry is 2.7.
Doesn't he have like 50 carries or something?
82.
Oh.
82 carries for 224 yards and, 2.5 yards per carry is terrible. But, at least, you need to run the ball to take pressure off your quarterback.
And you sacrifice for the greater good.
Yeah, you don't want your quarterback to get hit 20 times a game. He also has 17 receptions on the year. It's pretty good. And Jamar Chase, he has 20 less yards than T. Higgins, but he has 41 targets to 28 targets. Jamar Chase leading T. Higgins. So, Joe Burrow is still throwing the ball Jamar Chase's way. And like you said, if Marcus Peters is out today, somebody's going up against a good receiver, whether it's Chase or Higgins, and who's Humphrey going to follow at that point.
Last time he followed Jamar Chase, it didn't turn out too well for him.
Yeah, so if they put him on Higgins, then like I said, Joe Burrow still targeting Chase at a high percentage, so this could be a big game for Jamar Chase. And we talked about the Ravens' key to success. It's been the Lamar Jackson show, and it's proven that it can be successful. He's that good of a player. He's been in the MVP conversation. They just have to hold. If they get out to a lead this game, they just got to figure out how to keep that lead.
The key to the game, and it's the same that I don't know if I said it last week, but it was my key to the game for the Ravens game last week is defensively, they have to get turnovers. If this defense doesn't get turnovers, I think the game can get out of hand.
I think the Ravens are top 3 in the league in turnovers.
Well, look, I think against the Bills, they got two turnovers in the first half, and they were blowing them out. And then the second half, no turnovers. Bills moved the ball, did what they want. Ravens couldn't score, and ended up winning the game.
Yeah,
And at the end of that Bills-Ravens game, Adafe Owe goes for the punch-out on Devin Singletary, ends up tackling him to lose the game, but Singletary does lose possession of the ball. He just recovers it. Had they got that forced fumble, a turnover would have potentially won them the game.
Yeah, it was a tough loss. I didn't even know that had happened until you mentioned it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, as of right now, I
ahead.
have the Bengals winning 38-31. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Okay. I have the Ravens. I thought I picked the Ravens, but my scorecard says I picked the Bengals 31-28. So I don't remember who I picked. I thought I picked the Ravens, but maybe I picked the Bengals at that point. I'm going to switch it. If I did pick the Bengals 31-28, I'm going to go with the Ravens 31-28.
Field goal game.
Yes. I
McPherson
think the Ravens are going to get
Justin Tucker. I mean, if the Ravens even let Tucker kick field goals anymore.
I remember it was definitely the Ravens. That's why I was confused. It was the Ravens 31-28. And I said this in my head. I was like, this week, John Harbaugh is going to let his GOAT kicker win the game for them, as opposed to last week when he tried to go for it on fourth down.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. If you want to hear us talk about John Harbaugh, check out our Week 4 video that we posted. But this is our Week 5 live show. We do got the London game going on. Packers are leading that 20-13 against the Giants. Maybe it'll get interesting in the second half. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
You want to bring up our picks?
Oh, yeah, our picks. Do you want to put those on the screen?
Yeah, we'll start with the early games.
All right, for the early games, Giants at Packers, even though it's in London, so no one's really home. We both picked the Packers to win that. Steelers at Bills, we both like the Bills. Even with injuries, they're still one of the most talented teams in the league. Chargers at Browns, we both like the Chargers, but knowing them, they will let us down in the end. Texans at Jags. Texans have looked very promising this year under Lovie Smith, but we got the Jaguars trying to maintain their hold of the AFC South. Bears at Vikings. Bears have one of the worst offenses I've seen in years, so Vikings should win this easily. Lions at Patriots. Lions are the highest scoring team in the league, but they also give up the most points. So we both have the Lions winning this game, but don't be surprised if they lose in the end. Seahawks at Saints. This is our first
disagreement.
Yeah, just can't think of the word. Big Sass, they got the Seahawks winning 24-17, while I have the Saints winning 23-20. Alvin Kamara is back, and I see him taking advantage of the Seahawks run defense. Dolphins at Jets. Big Sass has the upset. Jets winning 24-23 behind Zach Wilson, while I have the Dolphins winning 2017. Don't sleep on Teddy Bridgewater. He does just enough.
Apparently, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Water are both questionable. I don't know if their status has changed, but that led to my prediction a little bit. If they're not 100%.
Well, regardless, don't sleep on Teddy Bridgewater. He squeaks out a win here. Falcons at Bucks. We both got the Bucks winning. Big Sass has it in blowout fashion, but these Falcons come to play. They are like the Lions last year, so I have the Bucks winning.
Kyle Pitts.
He doesn't do anything.
He's still a target.
Bucks winning 17-16. Titans at Commanders. We both have the Titans winning a close game against the Commanders, riding Derrick Henry to victory. Now for the late and primetime games. 49ers at Panthers. I'm sorry. I was maybe a huge Baker supporter, apologist. I'm done. 49ers win this game. We both see it that way. Eagles at Cardinals. We both had the Eagles scoring 31, while Sasquatch has the Cardinals making a late push to make it interesting. Cowboys at Rams. We both have the Rams winning. Rams are looking just a smidge off this year, but if they lose to Cooper Rush, their season's in jeopardy. And then we are split on the Bengals at Ravens. Did you say you officially changed your pick?
No, yeah, this is the right pick. I had the Ravens.
Sorry. Sass has the Ravens winning on a late Justin Tucker field goal, while I have the Bengals winning by a touchdown, taking advantage of the suspect Ravens defense. Raiders at Chiefs. Another similar score. We both had the Chiefs putting up 27 points in a victory over the struggling Raiders. So those are our picks for the week. I don't think we checked how many correct predictions we got last week, but I know there was a few in there.
You had almost the correct score for the Jaguars-Eagles game. I think you were off by 3 points total. And you had the Jets-Steelers pick correct and the score correct.
Sometimes you just, when you know, you know. All right. Any other shout outs for the day? I don't know why I can't say shout all of a sudden.
That's early in the morning. Not really, but maybe. Nope, I think that's it.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for today's show. This is No Interference Live. We are your host, Westside Big Sass. Thanks for anyone who tuned in. If you care, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the NI Show. Check out our videos. We post a breakdown every week, and we go live every Sunday morning. So once again, appreciate you tuning in. Have a good morning. Adios.
See